Hey guys, what it is, it's yo girl Cadillac. Hi, I am Cadillac Dixon. I am the Draw My Life prison wife. I am the legally blind artist that is rapping and painting for justice, hoping to see justice before it all fades to black. He's your girl Cadillac. So, got my little steak and shake. Yes, good. Butterfinger. Yes. Okay, so my little nephew just came out. I'm so hungry. I'm starving and stuff. You know how dramatic kids be. Like, for real. There'd be some up in their house. Some for them to find. Some they can eat on. But they be acting like they just ain't been fed in like a million years. So he calls me. He's like, when you get home, can you bring me something on your way home? And I'm like, I'm already home. I'm in the room. So yeah, girl. Can't get the shake through the straw. But yeah, so he was like, can you get me something to eat? So I'm just coming from getting him something to eat. So it could stop him from dying and all. So tonight it is still technically Vlogmas Day 18. And I'm right now I'm uploading that second half of that story. The first part of Vlogmas Day 18 was telling the rest of the story of meeting I was about to say Life Jennings, I mean Jaheem. And the video from Vlogmas Day 17 is where I started it, but it cut off abruptly. So I, finished it. I didn't want that story to go untold. Like a lot of my Vlogmas stories, oh my gosh, they just cut off in the middle. And that's because this phone storage goes full. Like it's undetermined how long it's going to let me, record. So it'll let me record so long, but then it'll just shut off. So that's what, and then I end up with a half a story. Okay. So I got my list today, good. On Vlogmas Day 18, these were just the things that I wanted to talk to you guys about because this is an update with me and where my life is at right now, today. Okay. So I already finished on the first thing on my list was to finish, the story of meeting Jaheim, and I did finish that one for you guys. If you want to see them, they will be linked in the description box, parts 1 and 2 of that story. And you can also go onto my page and stuff and see those stories. Okay, so number 2. Now, what the next project I'm going to get into, basically 2021 was supposed to be about finishing what I started. And I haven't quite done that. Like I just started more things instead of finishing the things I've already started. Like the millions of projects I started, start finishing them. And, possibly we can get this to come full circle with Project Reach the World actually doing what it's intended to reach the world about Marcello Jackson being wrongfully convicted and excessively sentenced, leading to his freedom. I feel like once they know this man's story, this man will be free. Okay, so I have to go back to now. One of my projects I'm gonna start working on now is like revamping my portfolio. I gotta find it because last year I graduated and we had our big project was all the little projects that we did led up to our portfolio. And it was meant to be like all the work was supposed to be, good enough to go into the portfolio. And then we had this class called portfolio review. First we had portfolio prep, then we had portfolio review, which in portfolio prep, we had to go over which projects we were going to do like in detail for our portfolio, all our plans, all our, what we were going to do and how it was going to look and things like that. That's what portfolio prep is for. Okay, I took portfolio prep, and at the end, you had to show your projects. And basically, when I showed it in front of the class, it was like crickets, girl. Like, girl, they was like, what in the, I could tell they was like, what in the world is this stuff? Like, what this girl, this is, this girl ain't got nothing, like nothing worth showing. So end up, the teacher, I actually had her my last semester after that. And when I finally did pull my portfolio together, which I took the review twice. I took it the first time, and I start out slow, and then I started getting some good ideas. And I'm gonna tell you honestly, a lot of my portfolio turned out right just because of doing YouTube. Because I started designing my banner for YouTube, I started designing my avatar, and those things that I was so passionate about. I kind of didn't have time to focus on branding myself. That was basically what that review was going to be, branding your own self. And when we first heard of branding ourselves, like we've always been given a company and then we had to brand the company or come up with a brand identity for the company, but never for your own self. And I found it quite hard. But in between that time to taking the portfolio review a second time, and the reason I had to take it a second time is because the shutdown, school was shut. Like we went to spring break and we were due to come back, and we never came back. I never seen my campus again. That's crazy. Never seen my campus again. Oh, I did once we graduated, but we basically had a graduation in the parking lot. It was a drive-by graduation. But I ended up having to retake portfolio review again, but it was all via Zoom instead of being face-to-face class, and all via internet. We did we had to, before you can pass the class, you had to complete. Now, not all our plans now, this is what's crazy. The whole semester, we planned a portfolio that would be book form that we can show. Portfolio review was, and now I had dreads about portfolio review. Girl, I always think the worst, like for real. And I always struggled. I struggled the whole time during school. I tell y'all these stories. And I want to be real with y'all on this channel. I don't want to be like faking a facade or whatever. If I'm a mess, I want to let you know, hey girl, I'm a mess. If I'm doing all right, I want to let you know, hey girl, I'm doing all right. So I'm not trying to fake the funk over here. Like, girl, for real. So I struggled in school. And it was always because I'm trying to be current, but the time that I'm growing up and that I was raised was in a whole different like style. Their styles, everything was completely different. And plus, I was not raised with a lot of technology. So trying to go from not really dealing with technology, raised with technology, not knowing how to do technology, to being in school where everything is completely different, and it's standing on technology, and also your style has to be current with today. So a lot of that was challenging for me. So I would struggle. It would take me a while. Like I would need a lot of critiquing. It would be a lot of design something. We would have to present it before the class. They give me like all these critiques, and it always felt like all my classmates, most of them, best design in the world. Oh my gosh. Oh, that's so good. And some would have like a little bit of critiques, but your girl, I always had so many critiques. Like everything was wrong. Why did you choose that font? Why did you choose those colors? Why is this? Why is that? Like, and that's how I grew though. But I'm gonna tell you, it did hurt your girl feelings, like for real. So my portfolio wasn't that, great. But when it came around to the second semester of taking it again, and I started designing for my YouTube, and I made my YouTube banner and my avatar, and I started liking those colors, that pink and black that I use, like, because I want a bold, like bright color. Like, I've always been a bright fluorescent person. Like, those are the colors I love. I love bold and crazy and weird and different abstract things. That's me. I'm an artist. And I knew I wanted something bright and crazy, but I want something that I can be taken seriously. And then it was also hard because you can't just be too clean and cut and corporate when you're a graphic designer, because you have to have some artistic flair. So it was so hard for me to find that even balance. But through doing my YouTube and designing for my own passion, like designing my own thumbnails that I don't do no more, girl, but I used to. But through doing that, I started getting better and better. And when that portfolio came out, girl, I hit them with it was some things. Like, I had some great projects. And the teacher was like, I literally was worried for you. Like, I couldn't say that, but I didn't know how you would ever be prepared for the graphic design industry at all. And so it was crazy. So fast forward, I ended up in a layout class, and I had a project, and it was to do a family magazine. And I'm like, no, actually, she gave us a few like ideas, but I didn't know what type of magazine. I thought I wanted to do first a hair magazine, because I am a cosmetologist, licensed cosmetologist, keep my license up to par, though, I have carpal tunnel in my hands, riddled with carpal tunnel and arthritis, but I still keep my license up to date. And I'm still a licensed cosmetologist. And so I thought maybe I wanted to do a hair book, because that's always been something I wanted to do. But then I'm like, well, maybe I ended up, by me being a writer as well, I had ideas of doing, I have this book called Poetic Passages and Unwaxed Verses, which would be all these verses that I wrote over all these years, and I would combine them into a book of poetry and verses and get that published, so that I actually, though my rap career never, lifted off the ground, it still in some form or fashion would become beneficial in my life, and it would do something. It wouldn't be purposeless or done for no reason, because that's what it feels like it was, done for no reason, which a lot of things in my life feel like they were done for no reason. So I don't know. Eventually, I was like, I'm just going to do a family magazine, because I love kids and kids love me. I love my family. I love hard, like hard. It doesn't feel like a lot of people love me back, though. I'm one of those givers, givers, givers. And the people that really don't get too much back in return. I have a lot of one-way relationships in my life, where I'm just giving, 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 and you deplete me, but I don't get much back out of our relationship. I have a lot of those around me. So I love my family, but it's questionable sometimes about the return. So I wanted to do a family magazine. But the thing was, I don't always want to do things so clear and cut. Family magazines, like with babies, bouncing babies and stuff like that, they're bright white colors, like light colors, bright yellow. Like the pages would be white, like the background pages and the writing on it white, and clean, what they call clean, nothing basically on that page, girl. That's what it's so clean. Your design is clean. Yeah, it's clean because I don't know that, girl. But they love that. Clean, simple. They call it a minimalist. I'm a graphic designer minimalist. Well, girl, goodbye. I'm a maximalist. I be doing too much. Like, for real. They would always say, put your ideas and then see what you could take away. Like, pull it back. Like, pull it back. So I struggled. But I knew I didn't want to do that type of magazine. So I decided to do an alternative magazine, which whose like family is more alternative than mine. I'm a prison wife. I'm married to a prisoner. My child, I'm a single mother, but married. Crazy. Like, married, by heart. We couldn't physically get married. The state of Florida took that away from us when they violated my rights during visitation. Linked in the box if you want to check that story out. But that's why we're not physically, legally married. But I'm still married to him with my mind, body, and soul. Like, for real, that's my husband. So, what better, place than to actually bring, my story, my family story to, actual artwork. Now, my story is combining with my graphic design. And I've always kind of kept that like separate. Like, my artwork would deal with those issues, but never my graphic design work. It was always separate. But I had the idea to do an alternative magazine, like dealing with bad things that deal with raising your family, depression. Because I went through depression. I was a bullied child. I went through a lot of depression. And my child went through depression stemming from her father being incarcerated. So I know a lot about those dark areas. And a lot of times we don't talk about them. Like, I've never talked to my parents about my depression. You know what I'm saying? So it's like we could actually solve some of these family issues if we actually talked about them. And I never did. I was always an introvert. I was always a quiet. You wouldn't hear me even say peep. And it would be so much, I would be in so much turmoil. I would be in so much pain, have so much anger, so much bottled up emotions, but I would just have a straight face and just sitting there. Like, you wouldn't know none of this stuff. That's why I like this YouTube. Though not a lot of people even watching my videos. A lot of times I'm probably the one putting all the plays on my video because I love to watch my own videos, which I guess that's like a wacko thing to do. But it helps me release. At least, even if nobody's watching it, another person ain't heard my story, don't care for my story, at least I'm taking those emotions and I'm releasing them. I'm putting it somewhere and it's on YouTube now. Like, they're not all just bottled up inside of me and nobody knows how I really feel. Like, if you really want to know how I feel, baby, watch my YouTube videos. I show you and tell you every emotion I go through. So I finally released in school. Like, I have another project too. Let me link that. That's from my Facebook if you want to see it. It's an old video that I put on Facebook. But it was basically talking about broken but beautiful. And I was in my photography class. I'll probably remake this video a lot better, like for YouTube. But if you want to see it, it's my Facebook videos, whatever. But it was in 2017 after the hurricane that had came through here. And it just made me think all these things are broken, but you can still find beauty in it. Like, though it's broken, there's still beauty there. So I just started just documenting. Joe, hold on now. I just started documenting, the hurricane, the aftermath of the hurricane. But then after that, it was like my teacher was like, you don't want to make, well, professor, he was like, you don't want to make your whole thing just about hurricane damage. Like, it's got to progress past that. So then I started getting into like broken objects that could be broken, but still finding beauty in it. And then I started expanding further because he's like, you got to pull yourself further. Then I started thinking of broken like situations and things in life, but there's still some beauty in that. There's still some enjoyable, girl, don't even know what word I was finna put there, but there's still something in it that's beautiful, but it's broken. And then it progressed. And then I started putting like broken finances, broken dreams, broken cycles, and stuff like that. And at the end of the slideshow, it gets to broken home. And I had a picture. I had several visitation pictures. I had this one picture frame where it says family at the top, and it has all these frames of you're supposed to put your big happy family in those frames, right? But my happy family only has pictures together through visitation. So it was just Viso pictures all throughout this family picture. And it was like a dining room setting and hanging on the wall like a regular family mural would be. And the next one was, the ending slide was broken but beautiful. And it was a picture of myself looking into a broken mirror. I am broken, but I am also still beautiful. So once I showed that slideshow, and I'm like, girl, I'm letting it all out. But the teacher, this class, and then when you get down from presenting it, you don't know how people are going to look at you after you tell the world that you're the wife of a prisoner. How are they going to attack me now? Are they going to think bad of me? Are they going to talk behind my back? Like, what are they going to do now? And everybody, they were in shock and in awe. And my teacher was like, that is simply beautiful. Oh my goodness. Like, you really, I had to pull it out of you, but you really came through. And they accepted my story, which was crazy. And I'm like, people that have nothing to do with the prison system is actually like, that don't have somebody on the inside, is actually hearing and sympathizing with me. Like, that's not usual that you get that. Okay, so then that was my photography class. But then fast forward to my layout class where we were supposed to be making this magazine. And when I came with teenage depression, dealing with a teenager who's depressed. Then I dealt with I put something else. I tried to find like issues for each child age, like when the babies were babies, they're like teething and upset and have those different bad issues and stuff and tantrums. That's what I was dealing with that. But then teenage, and then it got to my spread. The feature story was the bars between us, and it was about prison and the situation of keeping a family together through a prison sentence. And the way I seen it, envisioned it in my head after doing my little sketches. I was in Chicago that year. Gosh, we went to Chicago 3 different times. And I was on I had a hybrid class where half of it was online and half was in class. So most of the times we didn't have to show up to class until something was due. Other than that, she was doing it online. So we didn't even have to show up. So I was way out in Chicago when I made these sketches. And the sketches would be due by a hard due date. This would be due by a hard due date. This would be due by a hard due date. So, and then our teacher was pregnant at the time too. So she was trying to be a little bit lenient on us or whatever. So I sketched out these Polaroid pictures, because when I first started visiting Marcello with our daughter Money, they used to the cameraman used to take Polaroid pictures. And that's telling you how long I've actually been a prison wife and how long I have been visiting. but that's the first remembrance of having family pictures. And I started like manipulating them together. And when I started thinking I wanted to have, first I thought I wanted to have spread out, Polaroid pictures spread out like that. But then I was like, no, look at the corners like this. Like they look like, if you put them together, they look like a broken heart. And I'm like, prison is a broken heart. Like a prison, families dealing with prison system is a broken hearted situation. So I ended up putting these Polaroid pictures together. The sides of them make the broken heart, the break in the heart. And then I made it into a heart shape. And it was like a collage of all these different visitation pictures. And at the top is a picture of Money and her dad visiting. And it was called Bars Between Us. And when I presented that, this was another time that I had let my guard down and fully like exposed myself. And they didn't give me the response I thought. When you expose yourself, you think you're going to get attacked. And they didn't. Everybody was like, oh my goodness. And when I took it to the next level in portfolio review, and I kept refining it and getting it better and getting it better. The teacher was like, this is one of your best pieces of work. And when my other teacher seen it that was in the portfolio prep, she was like, girl, I didn't think you could do it, but you, oh my gosh, you so far surpassed, you know. So after that, this year, we had started going to, actually, it might have been in 2020, me and Money for the first time. We went to the Capitol and they were doing the delegation meetings and stuff like that. We're trying to get things changed here in Florida. Our state is so far behind. They want to keep us all locked up for 1,000,001 years. Like, no matter what the crime is, lock them away forever and a day. Whether guilty or not, lock them away forever and a day. Just get them out of here. Lock them up, lock them up, lock them up, lock them up. That's what Florida wants to do. And keep them, keep them, keep them, keep them. So we're trying to, actually tell our real stories, because these politicians, they feel like they're just crunching numbers. They're just dealing with numbers. They don't see the real faces behind these numbers, behind these laws that you're making that affects real human lives. So we were all going up there to talk to these people and let them know our real true stories. And I had the thought to make a not 3x5, the trifold flyer and hand it out of my loved one. It really started out because one of the people in this advocating group I'm in asked me to make a flyer for their loved one. And then another one wanted one, and another one wanted one. I'm like, well, I got to make Marcello one. And then ended up, by me working in this and that, they ended up finding somebody else to do it. So I had spent a lot of time making these flyers. And I'm like, oh, okay, I guess they don't want them no more. Like, I just kind of did that for nothing. Everything I do is kind of for nothing. And I was like, well, I'm going to do something with it. Let me make a flyer for Marcello. So all I did was take all their pictures and information, and then I copy and pasted Marcello's picture and information on it. And then I tweaked it more and more and more, and it just became like simply beautiful. Now it's the flyer that I use to advocate for Marcello. But further than a flyer, I started thinking, what if I started handing out an actual tangible magazine telling the stories? And that's when I went through and took my portfolio magazine and I actually revamped it and made the full entire magazine about prison families and the issues that arise dealing with the prison system. And it was already called Family United, but it just made so much more sense with the prison system being a whole prisoner family magazine. Like not just the feature story, the whole magazine. So now I am in the works of trying to make issue number 2. Issue number 1 was a test run. I really want to put other stories in these magazines and somehow publish them so that they actually, instead of my story, you know how my story and Marcello Jackson's story is buried and nobody cares because nobody knows? I don't want that to be for you. If your loved one is being treated unjustly or has an unjust sentence, I want you to be able to get your story out. I know how it feels to be silenced and unheard. I know how horrible that feels. I know it got to be bad to know your loved one's in prison if they did something. But do you know that feeling when they didn't do something? Do you know how much worse it feels? You're getting punished and you don't even know why you're being punished. Like, I can understand being punished if you did something, but not even to the extent that they punish people. It's still unfair. But can you imagine if you didn't do a crime and decades of your life is being taken from you and you completely had a family and they just ruin your family? Ruin them. But, I'm resilient. I didn't let them ruin us. I'm coming out of this, like clawing my way out of this, but I didn't let it ruin us. Our daughter is still further along. I still, single mother, single-handedly got her through college, through high school. She never had to want or need for nothing. Always kept a roof over our head. That was not easy, baby. I gave my whole life to keep us together. And I didn't deserve to have to do that and to have to do it alone, but I did it. And if I could reach my back, I would pat myself because I did that. But do you know, overcoming those challenges, if they were not there, how much further could Marcello, and could our daughter be? And our unborn kids that would have been in existence if he wasn't in a prison cell. So I don't want it to be like that for everyone else. So I'm going back to my portfolio and I want this to be this is going to be the first project presented in my portfolio that I fully expand and show. And when you look through my portfolio, you're going to know I'm not the average graphic designer. I'm not just designing for